So when I was married, if I was taking out the garbage, I'd be halfway out. I said this before. I'd be halfway out taking out the garbage, and if the wife yelled, "Hey, hon, we take out the garbage," I would drop it on the spot. Don't tell me what to do. If she just kept quiet for 30 more seconds, I'd have done it. In school, I had to get the homework done before the teacher would tell me to do it. And the strange thing is just when I'm told, it was more, I'm fighting against it. Like, so I've had battles at times when I wasn't being responsible that ran into the law. When I'm speeding, I've had my few tickets. I'm learning, I have to learn to drive more cautiously. I have to impose that on it because I normally get the foot down. So I solved it by, I always drive a little more than the speed limit, but I keep the brakes on enough so that I don't get points. That's my risk zone. But it's still too fast for some people. Some people might be overly cautious with it. Some people might do what their father was telling them to do. I didn't. So as soon as you get Saturn to the Mars, it's not so much about an inner thing. It's more about how you're putting your energy out and how you're running to it. And with Saturn to Mars, there's the muscles are running into the bones. The bones are trying to hold steady and the muscles are pushing. The bones get broken. Do muscles get burnt or do accidents happen? So the Saturn can make a caution so there's not accidents. In the sports, this can be a very powerful thing, a defensive thing. I'm not moving. For me, it resolved to taking martial arts, taking Tai Chi and doing that for 40, 50 years at least, keep me a little bit in shape. But if you didn't work at it and you got lazy, the bones would start to weaken the muscles and you'd be really unambitious and not really work at things. Generally, there's a need to have to work harder and to use that effort to accomplish something. So when Saturn's healthy, it's healthy pressure. When Saturn's unhealthy and not really responsible or just, it's an unhealthy pressure. So it's a two-way thing. Saturn's putting the energy on the Mars, but you have to observe whether that's if it's a kid and they're having trouble in school, you gotta wonder, is it abuse from a parent or is the teacher being too severe? Or you see the tendency for Saturn to be there and the need for discipline, how they're gonna get it. It's like, I always played sports, but I don't remember that many. I was small, so I don't remember that many coaches really supporting me. Like on team sports where you're supposed to be big and strong. I would tackle anybody in football, but I was small, so I wouldn't get, when I got older, that made a difference. And but my determination and my ability to work would let me accomplish way more than most people would. I'm too serious. I joined astrology groups and I'm expecting to do things. I'm putting in and making the time to work at it and doing what I can. And when someone isn't being responsible, I'm almost intolerant. Then the severe side of my judgment. Mars to Saturn is a little severe. Jupiter Saturn is warlike and aggressive, but Mars to Saturn is serious, justified. What's the seriousness is coming on top of the Mars? You still have to be doing things, but you can't afford to be wrong, or you're pushing time. Can you meet the time that you have to learn to discipline the energy for yourself? For me, martial art taught that a lot. Tai Chi taught that a lot, where the masters of martial art, you would never see them angry or fighting. Wow, I said, that's incredible. You see these old people really in shape. And it's an invisible quality, but it's a great accomplishment. So there's a need to work. If you got Saturn, Mars, you need to work at things and you're going to be serious about what things you take on. And you'll have battles with people who are trying to compete with you in a job. That's not necessarily bad competition, but if someone's trying to hold you back, you're going to be fighting it. If someone's trying to get you to work at something, just all the same things without letting you grow or go somewhere more, it's going to be a problem. So again, when it's to Venus, you're not easily satisfied. When it's When it's Mars, you're trying to satisfy someone else, you're trying to do something sexually for someone else, you're going to be too serious and structured. It may not be fun. Whoa. Might seem like fun to you. To the recipient of that disciplined, forceful energy, that could be too rigid and not soft enough. So it's puzzles. I like to think everything's a puzzle. You have to, like a koan, and you look at it, you see it, and you wonder what it's there. What's happening with it? Saturn is always telling Mars it's the brakes on Mars. Mars is still pushing, but they'll run into the need for brakes, or they'll run into the brakes, the Saturn to the Mars. So that discipline is there inherently. There's an inhibition first, a discipline next, and then a consummate further, if one grows into it, if one matures into that properly. But one's father is not going to make what you do with your life easier. Like when I wanted to get my bike, I was 14, I was about 12, I think, I asked my dad if I could have a bike, a two-wheeler. He says, no way, not until you're 16. I'm frustrated looking at him. I'm thinking, what? It's almost heartbroken. And I said, what if I buy it myself? He said, well, if you buy it yourself, it's yours. So I went out and got 3 jobs, saved the money, and within about 2 months, I had my bike. No problem from that, because I went and did it. Problem because he wouldn't get it for me or do it, but I never would expect that. So you have to work these associations and think it through, like we're talking about it. Even now, like we could spend 2 hours talking about any one aspect and thinking about it and see, oh, it worked this way. Oh, at this age, it turned this way. Oh, it was working. You have to see at the different levels, one side was strong or weak, how it affected your Mars or your Sun or your Venus. Like you'll see and there's these pictures are changing all the time in our life, and they're coming, and we're experiencing them. So there's going to be some hard work with Saturn-Mars aspects. And if there's conjunctions where it's opposite, it's specifically hard work and disciplined effort. Nothing comes easy. It doesn't mean it can't come. It doesn't mean the victories can't be big, but you're not going to get support for it. Okay. We'll get to Jupiter about understanding what Mars wants and what Jupiter wants, what Saturn wants. Jupiter is the wisdom to know what's responsible and to guide the Mars who can accomplish things. So in a funny way, unfortunately, I have Mars and Jupiter together, both being squared by Saturn. So for me, I would do adrenaline, but I usually manage to accomplish something in the process. So that all the planets were involved means I'm struggling in my life to do things, to understand the right responsibilities, to be able to accept your authority, to be able to work at it. And that's just normal for me. Someone that doesn't have it, they live in a very different world. So these are other planets. You see it in behavioral patterns in society, around work, around participation and things. It's hard to know that just for a person. If you're living with someone, you'll see it. So when you get the Saturn to Jupiter, I don't think there's a bad aspect with Saturn and Jupiter. I think the stress that comes in between Saturn and Jupiter forces Jupiter to understand responsibilities better. And Saturn's putting these commitments, this timing, it forces a sense of timing. So if the conjunction or square or position is there, that sense of timing is usually fairly strong. If it's not there, there's still a need for timing, but it's not become a primary issue in that person. There may be times when it would be, but if it's conjunct or square or opposed, there's going to be a strong sense of how to expand and how to be prepared, how to wait. Take your time, hurry up, take your time. Like it's the hurry up's to Mars, take your time to Saturn, and understanding what's valid when. That's Jupiter. This is a battle worth fighting. This is a battle that's not worth fighting. So Saturn's putting its cautiousness on the Jupiter. So by putting the caution on the Jupiter, it's limiting how much adrenaline Jupiter encourages. If Jupiter encourages too much adrenaline, it attracts wars and violence, with Jupiter enhancing Mars. But if Saturn's affecting the Jupiter, it creates a cautious, more responsible, conservative understanding, measured understanding. That measured understanding will not allow, it's not likely to go to such extremes. Now, you can get different aspects at the same time that are in your chart, and there can be contradictory things going on at the same time, but the Saturn generally is understanding the need for breaks, understanding the caution, understanding the timing. I better wait, I better not do this now, or I have to do like this, I have to work at this, or I better speed up because it has to be done by such and such a time. And yeah, so it's hard to see these as personal functions. We see our hands as functions. We have the functions of the planet. Some of them are inside of us. Mental functions, emotional functions, nutritional functions. Some of them are outside. Putting Mars outside, and what we do outside as a function, like an extension of my body or my understanding of what I'm doing. You know, so there's a tendency to have to understand responsibility against the background of your experience. So I've had many experiences, many harsh experiences, and always there was some factor of what was responsible or not responsible within that. You know, like when I was in school and had a teacher who was just brutal, and once strapped me to, I think, 18 times on each hand in front of I was part of the first mixed class, boys and girls, in front of everybody. He just strapped me 18 times on each hand for swearing once. It created such a disassociation. I got through school, but I never really wanted to work for anybody or do it. I really didn't. The only consolation is years later, I found out 10, 15 years later, that man was arrested for abusing kids in school. It should have happened 30 years earlier. But he eventually got caught on it. In my day, the teachers were supposed to beat up kids. You know, so you're being with authority, you get your experiences, you see how you've run into it, you back up. They're all happening, all the planets are happening at the same time, but this cautious understanding is there. I would understand when someone authority was working with me, and that when I had the few teachers who respected me and liked me, I worked like crazy for them, and I came out with high 90s to 100% in my math subjects. And but you take example, how you have your parents, and you run into teachers, and you run into bosses, or the law, or whatever, like you run into Saturn. And as you get older, you run into your health. How have you lived? The really aggressive sports people when they're younger, they're going to have bad backs when they're older. Whew. My dad was very aggressive and mean when he was younger. When he was old and could hardly walk, he became a nice guy. Funny, like that. But the Jupiter Saturn, I wouldn't look for it being a bad thing. I would look at it for just a wiser, a little stress around having to learn the lessons of Saturn and Jupiter understanding Saturn. It's like you have to bring your father with you somewhere. You have to bring responsibility with you. How can you guide other people if it's not the right thing? If it's going to get them in trouble. So, and that blossoms more and more as one gets older. When you start getting into the outer planets, to Saturn, you start having planets that are affecting the Saturn. The outer planets affect the Saturn more than the Saturn affects the other side. Saturn is always trying to put the brakes on and be defensive about extreme situations. To warn you, to get you to be prepared, is being cautious. But the outer planets are always challenging the Saturn. And when they tend to weaken or disrupt or disturb the natural sense of inhibition, ambition in Saturn. I'm working at this, I got to do this, I have to do this. It's natural to have a certain amount of inhibition, to have to work for something, to try and achieve something. That's normal. If you try and cut corners or have to do it a special way, it may not be appropriate. So there's a struggle. The outer planets tend to destabilize Saturn. So